Good evening, everybody. We are back on a Memorial Day weekend, Memorial Day, with another episode of Corner to Copa. Got my co-host, Coach, with me. How you doing today, my boy?
And doing well, doing well. So, like you said, Memorial Day. Thank you to obviously those that gave their lives for our country and everything that we hold dear, and all the families today. Thank you for your person's ultimate sacrifice and allow us to have the dreams that we have today.
Absolutely. And we are back recapping another week of Detroit Tigers baseball, which we had some good success over the weekend. We took 3 or 4 from Toronto after starting on the wrong foot. I think we lost like 9-1 or something like that. But ended it on a Sunday the way you're supposed to in walk-off fashion. Matt Vierling, who I think was rewarded with Player of the Week. He hit 2 home runs on Sunday, the second one in walk-off fashion, and capped off a week where we were able to get on track offensively. I think it was 6-2 on Friday. It was 2-1. We just hit 2-run home run by Carpenter, and then we had 14 runs on Sunday. That was a wild one, but we've won 3 in a row. And that brings us, I believe, to 26-27 on the year. And I think we are just one game under 500 at home at this point, as we know we're a bit of road warriors. Yeah, we're 13-14 at home, and 26-27 overall. And we got a couple interesting things that went down this weekend. Colt Keith, I got to witness that in person. Hit his first home run of his career, first of many. I called it. I want to say
Yes,
I
he did.
called it, Reese, that home run was coming.
You may have called it the day before too. Honestly, we were talking offline. You texted me,
Yeah.
you're like, I'm feeling it. And then sure enough, you got to see it live in person.
Yeah, he had a scorching hot May overall, and the City Connects have brought them some good luck. We only wear them Friday. I think we wear them on Friday nights at home, but as we continue to win, I think we're gonna keep that trend going because can't how baseball players are. They are very superstitious, and if it ain't broke. They're not trying to fix it. So we'll see how long the City Connect trend goes. But Kenna Maeda, the return of Kenna Maeda on Friday. I was a little weary about him returning back on the game I went to, but he was dealing on Friday.
Yeah, 5 innings, 4 hits, only 1K, good control, no walks. Um, Obviously, I'd like to have seen him gone a little deeper. I'm sure they cut him. They probably had a pitch cap on him just to make sure that he didn't overdo it in his first game back, despite the few rehab starts he had down in Toledo. But yeah, any progress is good progress in that regard, especially in his camp. So yeah, putting up a nice goose egg and getting up a few runs before all of our runs before the fifth inning was a good sight to see for a change versus having to chase him down on the back end.
Absolutely. And we also got to see a Reese Olson win. He was obviously coming back after taking that line drive off the hip. He didn't miss any he didn't miss any starts. He made his next projected start, and he was able to go 6 1/3. And the 2-run home run that Kerry Carpenter hit in the first inning was enough for them to hold on to the victory. It was one of the lone good efforts out of our bullpen because right now they are the ones that are kind of struggling as of right now. Obviously, we needed all 14 runs to get the job done. Get the job done yesterday, but I guess we had to know that the bullpen wasn't going to be just lights out all year round. But that's part of it. You got other the offense was able to pick them up, and that's why it's a team effort because everybody has to do their part. But yeah, so we are on a 3-game win streak. We got to see Torkelson hit put another one into space, and just a overall good weekend of baseball. We got another home series, just a short one against the Pittsburgh Pirates coming up, and hopefully we can keep a good thing going with the City Connect unis. But yeah, anything else that you see as over the weekend?
Yeah, I mean, home series wins in almost a month exactly, going back to the end of April when Kansas City came to town. So it's been well needed. Obviously, our first series win since we were in Arizona last week, or yeah, a little over a week ago, week and a half. So well needed, even against on paper, record wise, a team that's struggling a little more than we are. Good to see win a game that by more than a few runs. Friday night, the one you went to, good to see them win a 1-run game and a low scoring game, which they're usually not attuned to winning. And obviously that slugfest, that almost little league like game on Sunday was obviously had enough entertainment twice over, as they're off today. But we keep running it back here. That magic number for their offense, 5 runs is their mark, because they're 18-3 when they score 5 or more runs. If they're under, they're 8-24. So that's kind of the number I'm just looking at every game. Like, okay, if we can get to that, we're gonna have a chance. um, Perez continues to somewhat carry them. I know there were a lot of people that chipped in on Sunday's game, but at least in terms of consistency, we've been kind of hammering that a little bit the last 2 episodes. Some of these guys need to start providing some consistency in their at bats, whether it's just getting on base, driving in runs in key situations, runners in scoring position with 2 outs, or less than 2 outs, second and third, etc. Different situations like that. But however, Torkelson continues to still find that consistency. He's shown some flashes of that we've seen every now and again, but he's hitting 220 still, 285 OBP, 637 OPS, which is seventh, I believe, on their team, but he still had a negative WAR, negative .9 WAR. So while it's nice when he's putting some in the seats, we overall would like to see him start to really drive the ball consistently, make the fielders make plays, and help even some of the load up among the rest of his teammates in the lineup. But like you said too, bullpen. And I think we touched on it too again over since the first episode. They've had been great early and often, and I think there's enough tape and scouting report out now where these guys are starting to be figured out in some ways, more than others. Because it feels like every game one of these guys gets out there and they just get popped. And obviously, next man up mentality, obviously, but I think there's definitely been enough appearances of these guys where now hitters have a plan of attack. They know what they like to throw, when they like to throw it. So they kind of have to get a little creative now. And obviously we've had some change with Lang going down and Englert coming up. Englert had a good first game, one inning I think it was, and then he came out for a second game and he got roughed up a little bit in that Sunday game I think it was, but came out with the win nonetheless.
Mm-hmm.
But that mix of guys I would just like to see some of these guys get some label on their role. Set up 8th inning guy, 7th inning guy, lefty specialist, closer. And I think it would help kind of settle some of these guys in, because you look at their 25 save opportunities, Foley's got 13 of them. So it's a little confused. I understand some of these are going to be based on who's available and who's not. So, but at the same time, it's tough. These guys are going to get up at different various points of the game and get loose, and each situation, whether it's a hold or just trying to get out of a jam in a seventh inning, or going in for a closing spot for a save. They carry each a little bit of a different approach, respectively. So, um, but yeah, that's pretty much what I saw from the last week and change.
We're gonna get to a break real quick. And just to piggyback off of what you had about Torkelson, the biggest thing with him that I'm seeing is that when runners are in scoring position, I feel like for whatever reason, he's more comfortable when the bases are empty. I don't think he has a single home run this year. I mean, or maybe he does, but I feel like most of the home runs he's getting, or even most of the doubles, because he's upwards in the league in doubles for whatever reason, but are when there's nobody on and the bases are empty. And what's been the polar opposite for Javi Baez is hitting 417 with runners in scoring position, which is just like when you think for him to have a 200, around 200 uh, overall batting average, he's got to only be getting hits when runners are in scoring position for his average to be that high.
You might have to be the first $25 million pinch hitter.
Yeah, I mean it's kind of crazy, and it makes you wonder. It's because he still strikes out a ton, he still grounds into a ton of double plays, which of course most of the time runner on first as opposed to second and beyond. But it's like it makes you wonder: do you tinker with the idea now? We don't want AJ Hinch getting any more wild ideas about. He's got enough batting lineups, but it makes you wonder if Javi was batting fourth or fifth and was forced to the focus. I feel like there's a certain level of focus or something in his mindset or his approach when runners are in scoring position that he's just a totally different hitter. I can't really put a finger on what it is, but it makes you wonder. I mean, because he's got 20 plus RBIs. He's somewhere in the upwards of top 20 in the American League as far as RBIs. So when he's put in that position, it's something that he is normally successful in. But I mean, I just think it's wild that with runners and scoring, because at first I noticed, I was like, okay, yeah, he's kind of still kind of an RBI guy, but the fact that he's hitting nearly 500 with runners in scoring position, that's got to be upwards of the best as far as players that play nearly every day, because he does get his fair share of days off. But just a kind of a wild stat, because the fans definitely go up and down with whether or not they want him around and whether to DFA him or not. But you take Javi Baez out, like who's really getting the RBIs right now? So, but yeah, that parlays into our. I know you've always been very crucial of Hinge's lineups and stuff like that. But what do you think about him running out all those righties yesterday? Obviously, it went well considering we scored 14 runs. But the tricky part with the left-handed pitcher and an all righty lineups is you take out a lot of your better hitters or current better hitters, like a Kerry Carpenter, who had 2 home runs in a row. I mean, had a home run in 2 consecutive games from Friday and Saturday. Colt Keith, Riley Green. I mean, these are some of our more successful hitters at this current moment. I mean, what do you think about the idea of putting Carson, Kelly, and Rogers in a lineup together, because off the strength of just the simple fact that they're right-handed hitters?
It's the that kind of approach is old as the game itself. Not the game itself, but it's old as in terms of how like general analytics were kind of taken into it, where people start to see, oh, okay, well, a lefty batter might struggle against a lefty pitcher just because of the pitch repertoire and how difficult it is to pick up certain pitches versus facing someone of the opposite arm, and vice versa to a degree. And I think we've largely have seen managers take that approach over our lifetime. If a guy has splits where he does struggle a little more on one side against one arm than the other arm, then they're probably not going to be playing, or at least start and get as many at bats as they normally would. Now, if you get a guy that's just he can hit both sides or he can hit the same side, then yeah, they've kind of proven their point that they can stay in there and take those at bats and not be more of a detriment or close to a guaranteed out. But you know, he's AJ. I think has always been pretty much an analytical guy. He goes by the numbers. He doesn't really manage too much by guttural instinct, gut instinct, if you will, as we were accustomed to seeing Jim Leland do for years here in Detroit, which proved that paid substantial dividends just short of a World Series title. But it's you either do or you don't. You trust the guys that have gotten you there to that point. But like you said, they went out there and did it, and boy, did they put up a lot of runs doing it too. So I think that's a W for him personally as well as the team in that regard.
Yeah, Carson Kelly hit a home run. He had a pretty good series against Arizona too. His old team, he's always got a little extra edge
Yeah,
there, but it definitely it was funny. Somebody tweeted, and of course it went viral, is that this lineup, because this lineup had it, of course, Vierling was playing in center field. You had Wenzel Perez lower in the lineup, and then you got Rogers and then Kelly at DH and Baez out there. He's like, this lineup is either going to score 1 run or 15. And it was like funny because the person said, well, you were wrong because they didn't score 15. It was 14. but yeah, it's just something. And baseball is funny like that. You got 162 games, so odd things are going to happen. But I mean, I think we had a 13-run effort against Arizona, so it's like it's just kind of a tease to what this, that this team definitely has talent, and they have the potential that even though we've had some record statistical, lows offensively, but on the other side of the spectrum, we can put up in Comerica Park, not one of the statistically rougher stadiums as far as offense and home runs. Like,
yeah,
when the weather is nice and whatever else is going on, like that ball flies. Like, so yeah, it just goes to show that the potential is there, and we're really, it's just a matter of consistency, of course, but we're definitely just one solid bat, or just a one more difference maker, whether it's just a guy, just the speed. We don't really have much as far as speed is concerned, as well. So I don't
yeah.
know.
Javi, I think he's leading the team in stolen bases. If I'm not mistaken, with 6. He hasn't been caught yet.
Right, yeah, Javi, and I know like Ibanez had an attempt yesterday where he beat the throw, but his foot slid off the bag. But yeah, I just think that we just need some more guys out there that can make a difference outside of like a Wenzel Perez, who I rant and rave about him every week, but not in the 9th inning when Torkelson got the single to get on base, he was able to bunt him over, which I was kind of, I love the fact that he's willing to do whatever it is to get the job done. But I was a little critical of the fact that we're taking the bat out of the hands of one of our most consistent and best hitters, to move them over, we're moving towards the bottom of the lineup. So we're getting into the Baez and
Yeah,
Rogers. And so I was critical of that, and in the end, even after Baez, the ground out did get Torkelson over to third, and then eventually Vierling hit a home run. So,
right.
yeah,
Yeah,
because what happened was, so he bunted Torkelson over to second. Baez grounds out. Torkelson gets to third. They intentionally walked Carpenter, who was pinch hitting because it was a left-handed, pitcher early in the game. So Carpenter got intentionally walked. He stole second. They kind of let him steal second, and then Vierling hits the home run. So it ended up working out because Vierling was hitting at the top of the lineup ultimately. But I was kind of shaky on taking the bat out of the hands of Wenzel Perez to get to Baez. even though
I,
Baez had an RBI earlier in the game.
I don't hate that decision entirely. I'd be right there with you, but in that situation, like you said, I mean, based on Baez's numbers too, all he
Right.
has to do is if he gets torque into second base into scoring position, statistically, Baez should have a chance on his own to drive him in
Right.
based on that. But yeah, it looks like he grounded out to the pitcher, which got Torkelson over to third.
Yeah, which is
But yeah,
it was you got to think. Of course, if it's a net comebacker, he doesn't get to third. It was like one of those like kind of dribblers where actually the announcer said that if he had really took a good look at third, he probably could have got torque at third. But whatever. The eye, it was in our favor in that particular situation. But yeah, analytics would tell you get him over to second. Baez gets him in because he's hitting 400, with runners in scoring position. But yeah, at the end of the day, Vierling hits his second home run of the day, and all is well. But yeah, I don't know where I was at with that, but I was talking about how Wenzel Perez does whatever he needs to get the job done. In that
yeah,
in that instance, he was bunning the runner over. So
yeah. And sometimes you have to make a decision where you've seen your team. I don't want to say fail, but they've been unsuccessful in doing it on their own accord, and you need to, by making that decision, hopefully put yourself in a higher statistical likelihood of scoring that run by having to sacrifice, lay down a bunt or something like that. So, whereas like some of these guys are still struggling. I mean, 250 is not terrible, but 1 out of 4, and if the guy's already got a hit, statistically speaking, you're like, well, he's probably not getting a second hit. So we need to make sure we do little things consistently, especially in practice or whatnot. So that way, when the time comes for a situation like you saw Sunday in that spot, that they can at least execute that and have a chance to score from second base. So, but yeah, like you said, all's well that ends well.
Absolutely. And we're going to get into the next break. All right. So now we're on to the portion of the show where we talk about any injuries or roster transactions. What we got going on this week?
All right, it's a pretty light week in general. Even going back to the last couple of days before, 9-10 days. The reliever Ty Addick, who was claimed by the Tigers earlier in the month, was put on waivers and claimed by the Mets. Matt Manning, obviously, I believe it was Friday when the announcement of Kenta Maeda, who was going to be activated. Matt Manning was sent back down to Toledo. Um, Obviously, Mason Engert was a call up when Lang went down, even swap there. And they did sign a second baseman, Patrick Lee, to a minor league contract. Has not seen the major league level yet, and was sent to the Lakeland Flying Tigers for assignment.
All right. And let's get into some AAA talk down on the farm. So Dylan, I believe his name is Dylan. Yeah, Dylan Dingler is on fire right now. He hit 2 home runs on says 523. So I don't know, that was towards the beginning of the week, but he's our catcher that we drafted in the second round in 2020, the year that Torkelson came out. He is currently hitting around 280, and with the struggles of Jake Rogers, he might be hearing some footsteps. He's been making his way up the system, and this is his first year at AAA, and he had a slow start to the year for sure, but he's been on a roll. Pretty much everybody else at the AAA level is pretty much maintained where they're at for the most part. McConaughey and Clark, who are playing in Lakeland right now, I feel like it's only a matter of time before they start making their move up the system. McConaughey's hitting. I think he was injured at the beginning of the year, but I think he's hitting well over 300, like 333. And Clark has started to after a slow start as well. He's beginning to really shape up to into what we hope that he will be in the next couple of years. So I would venture to say that very very soon they'll be getting their promotion. And Kreidler is starting to make his rehab stint in Lakeland as well. He just recently got his first hit. He started had a bit of a slow start, but he's starting to get back in form. So I think he's going to be going back up towards the AAA where he was at before he got injured. And lastly, Parker Meadows. He's currently hitting 296. He's got 3 home runs and 8 RBIs. He's wreaking havoc on the base pass, and he's got a 987 OPS. As I said, we definitely need just another spark in the lineup, a guy that can some speed on the base pass. Obviously, he's a great defender in center field, and he did hit 2 home runs in the midst of hitting under 100. He did manage to hit 2 home runs before he got sent down. So
and those weren't cheap hits either.
No, he really, yeah.
Those were some bombs.
He's 6'5". He's got the potential to be a threat. With the power as well. So between you got him, you got Malloy, you got Badu. Badu is another guy that hits for power and has good speed. I think that's the one thing that the Tigers are lacking in the outfield, because you got guys like Riley Green, not exactly a speedster. You got Mark Canna, you got Veerling, but
Perez is only there by fate, really, as I guess we'll call it a failed infielder for now.
Right, yeah, but
yeah,
he does. I don't know where we would be if he was not around. So Parker Meadows at some point, it'll be, there might be another opportunity for him. I mean, I could certainly part ways with McKinstry if it came down to it. He's a good enough serviceable utility player, which is a Scott Harris type. But yeah, I think there's a spot to be had, and it's got his name written all over it. So
I would agree with you there if they hadn't already gone through 2 sets of injuries to both Gio and Ibanez already this early. I think it might spook him into keeping him a bit longer than maybe necessary, but given some of those early injuries in the infield and our really, our gluttony of outfielders that we have, not just on the 25-man, but the 40-man roster too.
Right.
It's kind of it's a log jam.
Yeah, and
it is what it is.
I think, like I said, Kreidler's in Lakeland right now. I think the minute they feel comfortable bringing him up, I think that makes McKinstry a little bit more expendable, just because Kreidler can step in and play that shortstop role, which is McKinstry is essentially the guy. Especially if it's a right-handed pitcher that night, McKinstry is essentially the guy that they bring in to play short on the days that Baez gets a break. But yeah, what else we got going on? I see you there. Within the notes, we're talking about Olsen and how is he as good as Skubal? Obviously, Skubal's got all the wins to to speak to it, but I think it's starting to become he's starting to become a household name amongst the league that Olsen is every bit statistically outside of the wins. But I'll let you elaborate a little bit more if you got anything else to speak on as far as that's concerned.
Yeah, and for the listeners and the followers, we'll run the numbers here real quick. Pretty fairly high level. Olson 1-5, we had a 1.92 ERA, 56 and thirds innings pitched, just a hair over 100 WHIP, 105. Batting average against him is under 200 at a buck 97. He's allowed only 40 hits, 17 runs, 12 earned runs, and only one dinger. And he's got a fairly respectable 47 to 19 strikeout to walk ratio there, just a little bit better than 2-1, which isn't terrible. It's all right. It's good. It keeps him honest. Scooble's obviously 6-1 with 2.25 ERA, a solid under one WHIP at .85. Teams are batting only 187 against him. He's got 60 innings pitched, 41 hits, pretty similar, 17 runs, 15 earned, pretty much right in the same ballpark. He has allowed 4 home runs, but obviously the set that we've come to know him now more as, he's got a whopping 72 to 10 strikeout to walk ratio, which is better than 7-1.
Yeah.
But I mean, a lot of these numbers kind of mirror each other, and thankfully they're both, you got a righty and a lefty. So yeah, it's if these guys can be the anchor versus just Scooble, and we can, some of the other guys can come along. Flaherty, I know, has been pitching pretty well. If Maeda can maybe come around and be serviceable, and instead of blowing up every other game, maybe only blowing up every fourth or fifth game, uh, we might have the rotation might end up rounding out here, and then we'll throw a little the hot poker into the fire here and say, who knows, there might still be a reunion left between Justin Verlander and the Tigers come the trade deadline. So, if we're still in the hunt in the wild card or hanging around the division, I don't see why a phone call can't be made to gauge interest and see what the cost would be to make that happen. But I really like what Reese is, and I know we've joked about it offline. Guy just doesn't get any damn run support at all, like almost next to none. But and he's, I think, you can take it one step further. I think he could be a fan vote right in for the All Star game potentially if he keeps it up. If a lot of those numbers outside of the wins and losses stay similar in the same ballpark as Scooble, I don't see why he shouldn't be given some type of even minor consideration at that. But he's had a hell of a year that I think has just been slightly overshadowed a bit by Scooble.
Do you think that the fans are in tune enough to for that to hit their radar that he's doing so well? I mean, I know we are, because we watch him on a day-to-day basis, but has that hit the platforms and ESPNs and all that?
I think I've seen some national pieces here and there, nothing in depth or in great detail, but some major, mostly through MLB Network or MLB.com, just stating, guys that you should probably keep an eye on. Olson was one of them. And, they pretty much said the same thing. Outside of run support, this guy could be, just as good on any other rotation out there. He'd be welcomed pretty much in any rotation elsewhere with those kind of numbers. Even as the season goes on, we would expect, both guys, their numbers to go up a little bit as you get into more of the dog days of the summer. But as of right now, I mean, you can't take him for granted when you go up against him as an opponent. You have to do your due diligence, do this, check out the scouting report, really get a feel for him, because frankly, while he might not be putting up a bunch of Ks like Scooble has been, they ain't hitting against him just as much, and they're not getting it on base as much as just as much as Scooble. So I think it's not a fluke really so much anymore. This guy is in a groove. If he just gets some of the run support that we've seemingly only get once every 4 games or so, this guy could, instead of 1-5, could easily be 3-1 or 4-0 potentially with those. But I think we have the makings potentially of a 1A 1B anchor in the rotation. So I think as long as he keeps humming along, I think that drum for the national spotlight for him is only going to start to slowly grow larger.
All right, and we're gonna get into the last break right here. All right. So what do we have on tap for the next week for the Tigers?
All right. Quickly before I get into that, I just do want to note Riley Green has had a very unsuccessful May so far, and I think it's kind of been glaring. Last 7 games, 115 average, 179 OBP, 154 slugging,
Oof.
and going back the last 15 games, 175 average, 230 OBP, and slugging a paltry 228. So I know we were talking about him possibly as an all-star earlier, maybe 2 weeks ago or so. Uh, these numbers aren't going to get it done. Forget the all-star game. We just need this guy to come back and start driving in time he runs again, going line to line, and kind of reestablishing himself. But I feel like it's been a lot of ask for him too. To your point earlier, he's bad at what 4 to 5 different spots in the lineup: cleanup, leadoff, number two, number six, number three. Him and Perez have batted almost everywhere in the lineup
I was gonna say Perez has
between the
been
two of
everywhere
them.
from 1 to 7. Like
Yeah, and if you throw in Baez, who's been down there between 7 and 9, between those three players alone, they've batted everywhere in the lineup this year collectively. But yeah, no, I would just like to see a little more out of him. But in terms of looking at the schedule, as you mentioned, they have a random. We used to seeing them playing on Memorial Day and all the holidays, usually during the course of the season. It's a rare time that they're not playing, so they do have a day off before they start a tough stretch here. 9 games in 9 days. They're hosting Pittsburgh for 2 to finish off that 4-game interleague series that they've usually played over the last few years. And when they combine both league rosters for scheduling, then they travel to Boston for 4 games
wow.
over in Fenway, heading into the first couple days in June before they return home. Actually, no, sorry, before they continue the road trip, and they have a 3-game set out in Texas June 3rd through the 5th, making that 9 of 9 games and days. If I scroll over here, I got the matchups here. So we will have our potential Cy Young candidate up tomorrow night against Pittsburgh. Scooble. Jack Flaherty will go the day game on Wednesday to close that one out before Boston will see Maeda Thursday, Olson Friday, Casey Mize Saturday, and Scooble on Sunday afternoon. And then for the three in Texas, as it is right now, it would be Flaherty, Maeda, and Olson.
Yeah, and if you can make it to that day game, uh what day is that?
The Pittsburgh one,
Yeah, that's
Wednesday.
Wednesday. Yeah, that's got the Paul Skeens, the guy that
Yeah, that's right.
the
I see him up there.
phenom.
Yeah,
It would have been cool because at first I was watching on Instagram, they had it as Scooble versus Skeens. That would have been a cool little matchup, but
that would have
that
been nasty.
that's gonna end up being Flaherty against Skeens, which Flaherty is nobody to just snub your nose at. He's been doing pretty well as of late, but yeah,
That'll be interesting. Yeah, guy as long as Flaherty is in his career, and Skeen's obviously, making probably his second, third start since his call up.
third, he's
Yeah,
definitely past two, yeah,
yeah.
but yeah, that'll be a cool little matchup. But I think it's going to be imperative that we can, get some wins against Pittsburgh because I don't know
Yeah,
Boston,
this is not an easy
Texas.
stretch. Like
Yeah,
even just going beyond the schedule we just listed, Boston's. I mean, the entire AL East, other than the Blue Jays, is above 500 or better.
yeah,
Boston might be a game or two under, but they've been playing a lot better lately too. Texas is not a pushover by any means. Milwaukee's at the top of their division. Nationals are down a little bit. We got the Astros mid June. They're obviously playing a lot better than when we had them the first time in Comerica. And then you roll that into a 3-game set in Atlanta, even though we found out yesterday that it'll be without Ronald Acuna for the rest of the year. Atlanta is still Atlanta. And Marcell Ozuna is having one of the best years of his career right now, just absolutely tearing the ball off the cover for the Braves after a down year last year with some off the field personal issues. Then you've got the White Sox, you get the Phillies, Angels, then you got more divisional play up ahead. So there really isn't much gap in terms of weak teams, if you will, for them to kind of lay back a little bit and kind of take their foot off the pedal a little bit to catch their breath. So their metal's going to be tested here over the next 3 to 4 weeks.
absolutely. And we got some ground to make up because and nobody in the AL Central wants to let up, and you got to
No.
keep pace with who's the Orioles are the top team or the number one in the AL wild card right now.
Yes, they I believe were I think 5.5 games. I think we had. Let me see here.
Yeah,
Yeah,
they're up 5.5 as the
they're in
top.
5.5 as the top, the one of two, and then the Royals are a game and a half behind them at 4 games over the Twins, who was the first team in line chasing those two teams.
Yeah, the Royals had just swept us prior to the Blue Jay series.
And
So
let me tell you what, we lost. You know, we score a lot in one game, and then the next 3 games we don't score many at all. And our run differential is pretty much gone. We no longer have a positive run differential. But the Royals have a plus 78 run differential. The Orioles have a plus 69 run differential. I mean,
we're dead even as far as differential. It's
yeah,
okay. So.
if you know, we're not giving up a ton of runs, but we sure as hell ain't scoring that many runs either. So we kind of have to figure out one or the other to give up less or score more. And I think we all see right now that there is a greater opportunity for them to score more based on personnel, but we can get into that in a much greater depth on another episode.
Absolutely. So that pretty much wraps up the show. Yeah, I think that yeah, just consistency at the plate will go a long way for us. The starting pitching has continued to be um, to keep us around. We got to clean up some things in the bullpen. My boy Bo Brisky is continuing to cook.
A
But
lot of these young guys, man, they're showing their grit. I like it. I mean, usually you get a room and guys, all of a sudden you got a handful of young call ups, and they might tend to fold under the pressure. They got a lot of other young guys that are looking around, kind of looking for some maybe unspoken guidance, if you will, to kind of help maneuver and navigate around the big league level. But that doesn't seem to be really the case. Even guys that have been up briefly that have been sent back down already, like Velade and Buddy Kennedy. We put in some nice games in the limited time they were up. Obviously, Badu only was up for one game so far, but it's good to see. But I'd like to leave a little bit of a teaser for the next episode. Put it in the comments on YouTube there. We heard some before that. Seesaw Little League game on Sunday. There had been some rather critical comments made by Hinch in some post game interviews. Being taking offense to, oh, we've been competitive, and I'm like, no, this was that the last series where they got swept by Kansas City, and absolutely, frankly, in my opinion, they were embarrassed. And I'm like, I don't understand how you can say you were competitive when you scored 9 collective runs in 3 games and you gave up 24. I don't I I don't know. I think my teaser for the listeners and followers would be: is this guy the manager for next year? Let us know in the comments.
well, there you have it. You got some time to stew on that one. Um, yeah, definitely subscribe to Bleachers to Speakers for all the live and visual content, and then of course download it and subscribe to Corner to Copa for all audio. That's on all streaming platforms. We will be back with another weekly show, and stay tuned for any roster updates. Anything comes up in the middle of the week, we will try to keep you guys posted on that as well. But other than that, have a happy Memorial Day, and we will see you guys next time.
Take it easy, everyone.